Alright, so we are back for another Dokkan battle video, and in today's video we are going to be ranking every Dokkan Festival TUR that we got as of 2023, because of course the year is almost over, and I just realized technically we can make this list because we're not going to get another Dokkan Fest TUR until next year. We're just going to get the New Year's Dokkan Fest at the end of this month, which I'm assuming are going to be LRs. I guess technically there's a chance they could actually be TURs, and then this list would be incomplete because it wouldn't feature them, but I'm going to go out on a limb and just say they're going to make them LRs again, because it would be kind of weird for them to give us LRs for New Year's last year and then go back to TURs. I feel like that would be kind of disappointing, but I don't know. Whatever Dokkan decides to do, it wouldn't really surprise me. So this list might be kind of wrong like a month from now when you find out what the New Year's like rarity is. But again, we're just going to assume they're going to be LRs, and technically we can make this list already because we already have all the Dokkan Fest TURs for this year. So this list isn't necessarily how good they are and ranking them in order of like best to worst, even though that's kind of what it is, but we're more or less ranking them in terms of how overall impactful they were for the game and how beneficial they were for the game. So with all that said, we can go ahead and get right into it. At number 10, we do have Super 17. Super 17, just a very weird unit all around. On release, I feel like a lot of people were happy we got a Dokkan Fest Super 17, and I definitely agree. He's on some crazy weak teams. You know, androids, joined forces, artificial life forms, target Goku, inhuman deeds, power absorption, GT bosses. Pretty much all of his categories suck, except for like Battle of Fate. But the extreme class side of that definitely could use the help. So this guy is amazing for all of these teams. So then when we got his details revealed, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say he was bad, but like, dude, have you ever used him if you summoned on his banner? Probably not. You pulled him once, you did that GT bosses mission in the Legendary Goku event, and you never touched him again. He's just sitting there in your box. Maybe you used him once or twice with the Carnival LR Omega Shenron. Or for you global players, Carnival LR Omega Shenron is about to come out, so you can use him on his team. But other than that, this guy serves basically no purpose. He's just on a lot of weak teams, which they did not continue to buff. GT bosses still sucks. Androids still sucks. All these categories still suck. I mean, Androids isn't horrible because we've had a couple more buffs to it, and we're probably going to get some more in the future. But right now, Super 17's spot on Androids is really bad because he's not really linking amazing with a lot of the other units because, of course, he's got more of like an extreme class link set. He's got Brutal Beatdown, you know, Nightmare, Fear and Faith, GT, which none of the Android units that are good really have those links. So just again, a really weird spot in the game right now. It takes him forever to look impressive because you have to get the transformation into Super 17, which you get from turn 5, but you're not always getting it turn 5 because you have to be below 70% HP. So then when you do get it, you finally go into Super 17, and then you have to build this up. So it's like, all right, well, how long do you want it to take for him to actually be impressive? Because this guy's only getting good, like, turn 10. And by the time you're at turn 10, well, you're not. That's the whole thing. Most of the time, you're not going to turn 10. You're finishing off the fight, turn 6, 7, 8. So, really big issue with this guy. Just not good enough as quickly as we'd want him to be. So, unfortunately, he is at number 10. But I will admit, he does have some very good potential. Once you get all the damage reduction with him, which is for the first couple turns after you go into Super 17, and if you have a chance to build up with him really quickly, dude, this guy's going to be a beast defensively with all the nullifications, the HP recovery, 50% attack and defense on Super, the additionals. Like, this guy can be really good. It just takes him a while to get to that spot. So, unfortunately, he is at number 10. And then next up, we do have Dokkan Fest Super Trunks. Dokkan Fest Super Trunks, he's a little bit better than Super 17 because he gets in his ideal position a little easier. So, the condition to transform with him, which, like I said, it's basically the same setup as Super 17. You know, in his pre-transform state, he's not really amazing. He's kind of struggling. This guy, especially, because he can be good if you've got the Android/Cell Saga category allies on the team. But then even if you have that, you only have a 50% chance to guard. So even in his ideal setup, you still have a 50% chance to get absolutely destroyed. So that's why Trunks is in a little bit of a wonkier spot. But I will say this, his teams are much better than Super 17's, and he has some better like units you can run alongside him, especially with the latest Worldwide Download Celebration giving us the LR Future Gohan. We had the EZA for the Int Future Gohan, which all are on Android/Cell Saga. So they definitely did buff this guy's teams a little bit. And if you get like the perfect rotation with him, he's going to look good, right? Like, you have the guard, you get the 30% attack and defense on Super, and then, you know, you got additionals going on as well. You get the stats on Super from his passive. He's got the attacks effective against all types. Like, he can look impressive. It's just, if you don't get that guard, man, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to take a lot of damage. And by lot, I mean, like, you're just going to die. But if you get the transformation into Super Trunks, which, by the way, you do have to do 5 or more attacks in battle, or starting from the 5th turn when there's an enemy whose name includes Cell. 5 attacks isn't that bad. With somewhat good RNG, you're probably going to get this around turn... Well, if you get him turn 1, then you'll probably get it around like turn 5 or 6, which I guess is the same as Super 17. But there's no HP restriction behind it. You just do those, you know, couple of attacks, and then you'll get it pretty much at the end of the fight. But then you get like all the buffs when he transforms for multiple turns. So then this stuff is lasting for pretty much the remaining of the fight. And once you go into Super Trunks, you know, he's good. Like, there's not a whole lot to complain about. He's got 4 key and 300% attack and defense start of turn. He's getting stats on Super. He's got this extra little thing going on here as well. He gets another 100% to stats on Super. He's got stunning. He's got guaranteed crits on a super attack as well. Like, he's good. It's just it takes a minute to get here. And then also, you have to go through this guy to get to Super Trunks, obviously. And this guy is just not good enough. Like I said, even on his ideal rotation, he still has a high chance to get absolutely folded. So, I think number 9 is pretty good for him. He was a solid release, but he definitely could have been better. And then at number 8, so number 8, unfortunately, we got DOKKANFEST Kale. Now, I say unfortunately because me personally, I was really excited for DOKKANFEST Kale. I thought this could have been the perfect opportunity to build up Universe Survival Saga, which I guess they kind of did. I mean, she helps Universe 6, I'll say that. So if we get a Kefla, if we get an LR hit or something like that, she is helping those units out, which probably are also going to be on Universe Survival Saga. I guess if we get like a hit from the Universe 6 tournament, then he wouldn't be on there. But still, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's kind of helping these teams out. But because she's so restricted to Universe 6, I don't know, man. It really just makes her very wonky to run because Universe 6 is not a good category. I mean, I could pull this up. It's the same thing with Super 17 and his team sucking. It's the same thing with the Super Trunks and his team's not being as bad, but still pretty rough. So then it makes team building with him pretty difficult. And then also with Kale, her teams kind of suck. I mean, you're kind of noticing a pattern here with a lot of these, you know, DOKKANFEST units that aren't as good. They're restricted to teams, and the teams suck. Now, I guess I can continuously cope and keep on saying, oh yeah, but the teams are going to get better eventually. But, dude, we've been saying that for so long. They're probably going to randomly drop a Kefla in like a year, and by that point, this Kale won't even really be that useful. So that's why they just handle these teams really poorly. And unfortunately, these DOKKANFEST units that are restricted to those teams are suffering from that. Because, dude, look at this. I mean, Universe 6 just sucks. Like, this Banner unit Frost, absolutely horrible. I don't know why they made him bad. They should have made him really useful. Who else do we have? I mean, I know the Boda Magetta is pretty good. I mean, we had a couple good sub-EZAs for this category. But for the most part, this is just a really, really shite team. No one really stand out on here except for the Kale. But because she's restricted to Universe 6, it's really difficult with her. Like I said, team building is going to be a bitch. So, yeah, Kale has good potential. I mean, Super Saiyan 2 Kale is going to be really impressive. A ton of stats. Pretty sure she does have that guaranteed guard as well if there's Universe 6 category ally. So she's going to be amazing for slot 1 if you have that. But of course, Universe 6 sucks. So getting another Universe 6 category ally on the same turn can be tricky because then that other unit might take a lot of damage. I know there's the LR Kale and Cleefla, but they have to stack up. And then also, you know, it takes them a minute to stack up. And defensively, they're not amazing. I know they also have the dodge, but you know, some events are canceling dodge and stuff like that now. So we just need another LR Kefla, or no, we need an LR Kefla and then an LR hit that's really good for slot 1 or slot 2. So then we can run them alongside the DOKKANFEST Kale. But as it stands, Kale's at number 8. I feel like it's a pretty good spot for her because she still has higher potential, I'd say, than the Trunks and then the Super 17 because she gets like that 60% damage reduction in the turn. She has that guard, all those additionals. So her roof is a little bit higher, I'd say, but it's still just as difficult to get it activated, really. I mean, just as a Super Trunks and Super 17, really bad restrictions. But at number 7, we do have the DOKKANFEST Android 17 and 18. So, Android 17 and 18, a good unit. Not really a whole lot to complain about. I mean, they held back a little, but they're good. I mean, they're kind of, you know, in the middle of this list, so there's not like a whole lot to say about them. They're just pretty mid overall. They're decent. They're a good support. You know, they're an orb changer. They have probably one of the best super attack effects in the game, which I guess does give them some credit as well. So 100% attack and defense, and then all allies 35% attack and defense for 2 turns. Yeah, that's a pretty good super attack effect. I mean, it is the unit super attack. You have to keep that in mind. But you get it when there's another Goku on the same turn. And especially on like the Universe Survival Saga teams and all that, you're running a lot of other UI Gokus. So you're going to be able to get this pretty frequently. And like I said, it's a really good super attack effect, probably the best in the game. They got a solid leader skill as well. A lot of these like Universe Survival Saga teams, don't have a 200% as it stands. So even though they technically don't lead Universe Survival Saga, a lot of the Universe Survival Saga units are under their 200% leader skill. So there is some value with that. Once we get, I don't know, like for New Year's, a Tournament of Power theme celebration, they're probably going to have some pretty good spots on the new LR's teams. So I could see them getting good very soon, but, you know, I said this with Kale. I don't want to hope for their teams to get good, and then, you know, I end up being wrong, and we get one buff for their team like a year from now, but by then they're fodder. So we can't really rely on Dokkan to make their teams better. We just kind of have to judge them how they stand right now. And unfortunately, you know, these guys aren't that great. Like I said, they're pretty mid. I mean, they're not amazing. They're not horrible either, though. So that's why I think 7's pretty good for them around the middle of the list, right? So then next up on the list, we do have DOKKANFEST Turles. Now, DOKKANFEST Turles might seem a little high to some of you guys, but I actually think this is pretty good placement for Turles. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we're ranking how useful they were and impactful they were for the game overall. And don't get me wrong, Turles, like a lot of other units on this list, could have been a lot better, and I think he should have been a lot better. But this guy was still really good, especially for Extreme Class. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys know, but Extreme Class is bad, right? I mean, there's no getting around that whatsoever. Extreme Class, especially compared to Super Class, just straight up sucks. It doesn't get good representation, and when we do get good units on it, they're crazy restricted to a category. And while this guy does have restrictions, you have to be facing a Goku family category enemy, or an enemy whose name includes Gohan Kid to get this support right here, which is really good, but the support doesn't necessarily affect him or anyone else on the team defensively. So you could still run him on these Extreme Class teams, and defensively he'd be the same, even if he doesn't have this condition activated. So what this guy is actually doing for Extreme Class teams is really, really good. Even though he's not necessarily amazing, he still gets up to reasonable levels of damage reduction. I think he gets like 20%. And then also he's getting around 1,000,000 defense. He's stacking attack. He's healing on a super attack as well. And then he's going to be doing multiple supers. He's got this active skill, which is kind of difficult to get. I mean, you have to be facing a Goku family category enemy from turn 3, or an enemy whose name includes Gohan Kid. So it's not the best condition, but I mean, you can get it from turn 6 without any of that. So you'll still see it at the very end of the fight. And because he's stacking attack, this active skill is going to hit very hard. So as long as you build up with him, as long as you just throw him on one of these Extreme Class teams, he's going to be really impressive because he's got a really good Extreme Class link set. Big Bad Bosses, Thirst for Conquest, Brutal Beatdown, Prepared for Battle, Fierce Battle. Obviously, Destroyer of the Universe isn't really amazing, but other than that, he's got a pretty good Extreme Class link set, and he's on some pretty good Extreme Class teams as well. You got like Low Class Warrior, Movie Bosses, Terrifying Conquerors, Space Traveling Warriors, Planetary Destruction, even Final Trump card has a pretty solid Extreme Class side. So I think what Turles is doing for Extreme Class is really, really important and really beneficial for that, you know, side of the game overall, I guess, because there's Super Class and Extreme Class. So between everything I just mentioned, I think Turles is a very useful unit, and even though he could have been better, he's still very, very impactful for the game. So that's why I think number 6 is pretty good for him. And then moving on to number 5, we've got Gohan and Piccolo. So Gohan and Piccolo, they're good, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot to complain about. They're good. They're a good support. They get some pretty good stats, especially after they super. They have the exchange as well, or like the revive exchange to Gohan Kid. And then he becomes absolutely insane for that first turn. This guy's getting like 300% the stats on super. He also gets the 100% on his super attack effect, and then another 100% here. So his defense is like quadrupling on his super, and then also some if you get additionals. So just really good unit all around. I love his support. He's not amazing for slot 1, I'll say that. He can be good with his damage reduction activated right here, but even with that, you're still probably going to want to throw him in slot 2 and 3, just so they can really tank better, because then they like get the defense on super, which is really going to help them out defensively. But overall, still a really good unit. They're on some weak teams as well. Stuff like Exploding Rage, Powerful Comeback, Entrusted Will, Sand Saga, Bond of Master and Disciple, all really needed the help, so then them not only being just good on these categories, but also even a good support for some of them is really useful for the game. So good unit all around, not a whole lot to complain about. That's why I think number 5 is pretty good for them, but there's also not really a whole lot to talk about. They're just pretty good. They've got a couple flaws in their kit, but it's nothing insane. Again, I think they were just a pretty solid release all around, especially considering, like I said, the weak teams they're helping. But at number 4, we do have the newly released Android 21. Android 21 is a good unit, but not an amazing unit. She has damage reduction, but not that high of damage reduction. So you can see where I'm going with this. She's got good stuff in her kit, but just not enough. I think overall she's a good release for the game, though, because she's good enough to be ran in difficult content. And then also she's on some really weak teams, so very similar to like the DOKKANFEST Turles, the DOKKANFEST Gohan and Piccolo. A unit like this that's pretty solid in terms of their performance is really beneficial for the game because you can actually run them in difficult content. So then that means these teams you can use in difficult content because you have a unit like this. And Android 21, dude, I'm telling you, just wait till we get an EZA for the LR Buhan. Wait till we get an EZA for the Exchange Boo. Wait till we get an LR Kid Boo. It might seem like coke, but I'm telling you, we're bound to get a Kid Boo eventually. They hear the complaints that we don't have a Kid Boo. So when we get one, then of course she's going to be very good on his team. Or Kid Boo's going to be good on her team because technically she does lead Majin Power. So Kid Boo would fit on here. But yeah, she's a good unit. She's pretty good pre-transformed. And then once you transform with her, she's a much better slot 1 option. She gets a lot of stats start of turn. She still gets a lot of stats on super as well, between the 30% on her super attack effect and then the 121% when attacking. She's got some damage reduction just for free. Granted, it is only 21%, so that's definitely a very low number, but still pretty useful, especially in slot 2 and 3, because then you get all those stats and then you have around like 1.5 million defense on like her ideal rotation, which I think I did get in her showcase. And then you've also got a little bit of damage reduction. So that's what I'm saying. Her roof is really high. And it's not that difficult to get to this range, like with her, because the transformation condition is that it can be activated when facing only one enemy, starting from the 5th turn from start of battle. So in most events, obviously you're only facing one enemy. So this basically just boils down to turn 5. And obviously most of the time you are going to turn 5. So Android 21, really good unit, really weak teams, and not really a whole lot to complain about. I like that she's got big bad bosses as well. So then again, when we get that LR Kid Boo, you know, that rotation's going to go crazy. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to skyrocket her value. But anyway, the top 3 most valuable TURs of 2023. So at number 3, I've got World Tournament Goku. At number 2, I've got God Goku. And at number 1, I've got World Tournament Piccolo. So a lot of people might be confused because in my DOKKANFEST tier list, I did put God Goku above DOKKANFEST World Tournament Piccolo. And that's because I think God Goku's better than World Tournament Piccolo overall. But like I mentioned, this isn't just a ranking of their performance. This is also a ranking of how impactful they were for the game. And everything I said about DOKKANFEST Turles, about how he's really good for these extreme class teams, he's really good for, you know, supporting, he's solid defensively, he's healing, he's got all that crazy stuff with his stacking attack and his active skill. Piccolo does like ×2. So he's not stacking attack or anything like that, obviously, but Piccolo's still just as crazy. He's dropping multiple attack stats, all over 10 million. He's helping all these extreme class teams even more than Turles. You've got like Giant Formed, Mechians, Terrifying Conquerors, Target Goku, Revenge, Entrusted Will, Worldwide Chaos. You've got Battle of Fate, which like I said, the extreme class side of that isn't necessarily amazing. I said that with, I think, the Super 17. So he's still helping that. He's got Final Trump Card, which has a good extreme class side as well. World Tournament isn't necessarily the best category. So a lot of weak teams here, and then also a lot of extreme class teams that needed the help. So then this guy being as good as he was really good for the game. My one issue with him, and the main reason I think God Goku is still better than World Tournament Piccolo, is because he's a slot 2 and 3 option. Slot 2 and 3 options are good for the game, but on these extreme class teams, not really, because every unit's a slot 2 or 3 option, or every unit gets like all their stuff on super. So then having another unit like that is really unfortunate because we just need good slot 1 options on these extreme class teams. So then a unit like God Goku, who is a slot 1 option, is really good for his teams. Now, obviously, he's not extreme class, so the value's a little different because we have a lot more slot 1 options on his teams, but still, him being, you know, over like a million defense, having the guard, having the 60% chance to dodge, dropping all these attack stats, him stacking as well, shows his value, and I think he is definitely better than World Tournament Piccolo, but both of them are still really good. If you want to argue World Tournament Piccolo over God Goku, I could absolutely see that. In this list, I am saying World Tournament Piccolo is more valuable than God Goku, though, like I said, because he's just really benefiting a lot more teams that desperately need the help. And then this guy's an absolute annihilator in stuff like Super Battle and World Tournament as well, so that's definitely really good. It makes him insanely valuable for other game modes outside of, you know, just the basic difficult event or something like that. So definitely really good with World Tournament Piccolo. God Goku, like I said, a really good option with his guard, damage reduction, dodge, stacking. He's got that active skill. And then even when you use the active skill, if you don't kill the enemy, you're still going to be pretty impressive. He's got a pretty solid kit right here. So just a really good unit all around. And that's why I think the second most valuable TUR of 2023 is a good spot for him. And then World Tournament Goku, we kind of did this in reverse order. We went over 1, then 2, then 3. Whatever. I mean, just as long as we talk about them, I guess. World Tournament Goku, really useful. He gets that guard for that first turn, so then it lets him kind of build up a little. And then the second turn, he only has a high chance to guard, so if you haven't built up that much, he could get absolutely annihilated. But if you get lucky with that coin flip and you get the guard for the next couple turns and build up with him, then he's going to look really impressive. He does also have the standby right here. So the standby is insane. He becomes amazing defensively. So the standby is pretty good. You become a really good support, and the whole purpose is that you have to die. So, you know, of course, you do have to, unfortunately, take a lot of damage here. So his defense isn't that great. And also, you can't attack. So he kind of got the worst of both worlds from the 8th year anniversary LR standbys. He got the ability to not be able to attack at all. You know, there's no super attack effect right here. And then also, he has to die. So kind of weird in terms of his value. I definitely think they probably could have made the standby just a little bit better, but by no means is it bad. He's going to be doing a lot of damage, and then when you come back, you get that guaranteed guard and then a couple other things. So he's going to be a pretty useful unit all around. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much the video. This is the full list. Let me know what you guys are thinking of this down in the comments. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this right here. A lot of people probably want this, or a lot of people are happy I did this, or they just disagree that I think God Goku is better than World Tournament Piccolo, but I mean, you guys know the reasons why I think that. So let me know in the comments how you're feeling about that, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.